Hello, awesome people. I hope you are having a magnificent day today. Today, I'm taking a look at the 1964 serial Doctor Who's The Aztecs from 1960 from the It's a four-parter and such. It's in the Doctor Who section, not as a season one. Now, as a reminder, I'm dedicating my Saturday to the forgotten things in the serials of the day. I started off with movies like Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers, Gene Autry's The Phantom Empire, which is a western and a sci-fi. The Green Hornet and stuff like that, right? Captain Marvel in the superhero space, and now I wanted to move to the television space of Doctor Who stuffs. And these sold theaters. They were very powerful on television and that sort of a thing too. So today we're going to be taking a look at my review of the Aztecs, which I saw on TV as a kid. As a reminder, I grew up watching Doctor Who in Southern West Virginia on my PBS channel. My first one that I saw when I was really small was the Robots of Death, and a fourth Doctor episode. And my PBS in Southern West Virginia would show the Doctor Who's at 6 p.m. each day, and I would go home and go and watch that rather than my friends that were typically seeing things like He-Man or G.I. Joe, those sorts of things. I would be watching Doctor Who. And so forth. And they actually would sell Doctor Who televisions and stuff. Right? I remember one time for sales and such. In order to, they would choose whether you wanted to choose Vengeance on Vardos from the Sixth Doctor and other stuff too. Right? It was definitely enough to be part of it. So I watched Fourth Doctor on through Castrovalva when he regenerates into the Fifth Doctor, the fifth, and he was Peter Davison, loved him lots. He was my favorite one growing up. And then I watched his regeneration, and then I saw the first season of the Sixth Doctor, and then that was it. And then they had finished getting caught up, so they went back to the black and whites and started with the Unearthly Child. So I actually saw that too. I thought it was pretty creepy, and I went back and reviewed it and such. Bought these things on DVD and so forth. Then I watched the Daleks, and then I watched this, like I said before, on TV too as a kid. I was probably more of a teen at the time, but I liked it lots. It was good stuff. Enjoyed it lots. And so basically what was happening here is, and there's no spoilers and so forth, but the idea here is that the Doctor and the TARDIS crew have arrived in 15th century Aztecs. Now, this is, again, a four-parter and stuff such. It's great stuff. It's still stars as the first Doctor, William Hartnell, who's not my favorite Doctor. I think he just gave to the part so much and really put him on the map in a major way. As two teachers from our time, William Russell, another way, as the science teacher, Ian Chesterton, who also sometimes will do some action roles and that sort of a thing. And then a history teacher, Barbara Wright, who is played by Jacqueline Hill. And we'll learn a lot more about her character. Her character is really more the protagonist, not the Doctor in this one, and such. And then their student for the two of these teachers, as well as his granddaughter, the Doctor's, Carol Ann Ford's Susan Foreman, for you folks, and she's entertaining. And so the idea here is that the four of these people will have arrived, and now they'll need to figure out what's happening and get back to the TARDIS. No spoilers. Even if you have, I know it's more than 50 years old, but still no spoilers. I just don't want to spoil things and so forth. So also, when you talk about this, please don't talk about the spoilers and such too. All right. It also stars as the primary antagonist, and I'm sure that they even corrected the Doctor when he mispronounced this guy's name a couple times early on in episode 1. I'm sure I'm going to slaughter it too. It's Tlotoxl for you folks. He's an evil priest played by John Ringham. The good guy antagonist, who's also his rival, protagonist rather, is Otlok, the High Priest of Knowledge, who is played by Keith Pyatt, and then the High Warrior and the High Priest's buddy, and so forth, is Ixta, and he's played by Ian Cullen, and that's ironic because he's Ian's rival here, and will actually try to kill Ian on a few occasions, right, as the High Warrior. And the High Priest's, the bad guys, he's his primary henchman, and they'll buddy up and such. So that's basically what those. So that's basically the stars and so forth. Good stuff. All right. Again, now this is directed by John Crockett, who had directed an episode of the Marco Polo, who was also historicals. And this show in the early eras would typically go back and forth between a historical and a sci-fi. And the previous short story was The Keys of Marinus. And the next one would be Descent Rights to sci-fi things. So these are set on alien planets and that sort of thing, right? And the Daleks really put them on the map. This guy, the director here, knew a lot about history, and he had actually directed the Marco Polo episode from the previous one that definitely put them on the map in a major way. For you folks. And then Verity Lambert is the producer. She's again the first female producer in BBC drama history, and so forth. And then and then the guy who wrote this was John Lucarotti. I think that's how it's pronounced. It could be Lucarotti. I don't know. And he also wrote 2 other Doctor Who serials, Marco Polo, the previous one that I mentioned, as well as The Massacre, 2 historicals too. And then he did some research for this because he really wanted to sort of make it a more historical and accurate portrayal of the Aztecs and so forth. So many Doctor Who fans consider this serial to be their favorite historical serial. It's fast, it's only 4 parts, right? And it's well paced, it's got some great stuff. It really sort of contributes to the premises and so forth. And however, I think it's even better than that. Now, some might say that Marco Polo or something like that might be better, but since doesn't exist in the archives, so some since a lot of those shows aren't like that we talked about previously, so that's cool and so forth. However, this is my favorite first Doctor all over. Not the Edge of Destruction, which I also go tend to, not the Doctors. Daleks rather, or some of the later ones that are I think are just strong stuff too. But I think this is actually my favorite. Like I said before, it's more influential. I think it's more influential on Modern Who than anything else from the first era, from the idea of what you can and can't change in time. And you can't change things that have happened, those sorts of things, and constants like that, and the nature of time travel. And you even see the Doctor wooing somebody, so it's pretty fun, so forth too. And I think that's really fun, and getting romantically involved with this older guy, right? It's fun stuff. Love it, and I think it's an impact of Doctor Who stuff. It's like I said, more than an Edge of Destruction, which was the previous one which I talked about. No spoilers and the ending, so I can't talk about it massively, but it hugely impacts a lot of modern Doctor stuff, and this does too, from the waters of Mars on down, and so forth, right? I also love that while there are some battle scenes here and there, this is really more a battle of wits and a political drama between Barbara and Jacqueline, which I mentioned before, is more the protagonist here, and the high priest, and the evil guy, the high priest, and the guy, and then too, Tlotoxl for you folks. And then we find out that the history teacher, Barbara Wright, has actually specialized in and wrote her dissertation on the Aztecs, and so she's definitely a specialist in this area, in this culture, and so forth. And she believes that there's more to them than just the sacrifices that we might think of it. So we might just say, oh, it's an evil culture, they did human sacrifices, and so forth. And so she believes that there's more to them than that. That there's some good in them too as a society, in a culture, and so forth. So there's more to this influence and such, which I like a lot. This is the actress Jacqueline Hill's favorite serial that she did. So again, I think it's an absolute classic 10 out of 10 for you folks. Now, this is, like I mentioned before, of its time. So, for example, that I've mentioned in some of my previous serials, it's portrayal of Native Americans and specifically the Aztecs and the Mesoamericans. Right? It tries to be better than the idea of them by not being, fully evil. People that we might just see as self-sacrifices. There's more to them, that sort of a thing. And the author researched them too, and tries to have them be shown in a good light, right? But even some of her companions and such are like, you can't. This isn't working, and so forth. And then, as an example, none of the actresses or actors who play these people are all white. And so forth. Everybody who wrote this, everybody who directed this, right? They're all white, right? And so forth. So it is of its time. It feels like it's trying to do some good stuff. For example, there's a Doctor Who episode, and also in the mid-'60s too, where Captain Kirk is stranded on a planet with American Indians, and they still have their cultures and their ways and so forth. And the idea is to try to teach people and respect the Native American culture, but because it's told from a white lens and so forth, it really has some of the biases and so forth. It's trying to do a good job and trying to do it one, two, and here you can make the argument of the same things happening here, right? They have researched the Aztecs. They'll tell you historical facts. They definitely don't see. Barbara has made the argument as an expert in the field, right, that she doesn't believe they're all evil, right, and so forth. But it does feel just like the Native Americans in Star Trek here, the Mesoamerican Aztecs, really feel like they aren't right. It's of its time, right? It can come across a little ham-fisted at times, especially from modern viewers and so forth. But again, I still think it's a 10 out of 10. It's a classic. It's well done. Great character development, particularly Barbara's character. And Ian actually gets some character development moments here too that will show up later on. I can't tell you because of spoilers, but you will like it too. Again, I'll link it to you in the comments below on BritBox, which is where I just recently went back and streamed it for this, my 4th time watching it. Or I'll also link it to the DVD in case you're interested in checking out the Aztecs for you folks. So what did you think about it? Did you agree or disagree with my 10 out of 10? Did you think it's actually the best first Doctor episode serial of all time? And if not, what did you think? Yours, ours. Was it the Daleks? Was it Edge of Destruction? Whatever. Is it something else? Right. Just let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. But again, spoiler free. Thanks for folks that might be coming to this new for you folks. And then if you like this video, why not hit the like button, the bell icon, if you want to be notified of my videos and feeling frisky, and then also the subscribe button too. And then tell your friends, serial friends, science fiction fans, historical fans, Aztecs fans, Doctor Who fans, right? Have them all watch this video. Thanks. And so there you are. As a reminder, this channel is named The Worst Thing About New Books. That's a quote by a French philosopher named Jacques Joubert. And he said that the worst thing about them was that they kept us from reading the old ones, right? And this is definitely some older stuff that have influenced us and so forth. No, this isn't books. It's older stuff like serials. But like I mentioned before, serials were heavily influential, right? And after Dalek Mania, Doctor Who's put on the map in a major way. And the idea here of doing time travel is trying to teach us some things about the past, and then some things in the future, maybe on alien planets, to teach us some things about ourselves, right? Like the Daleks and so forth. And so I think it's an absolute classic and some great stuff. And this is, again, trying to teach, students and kids, right, about the Native Americans, the Aztecs, in this case, right, and so forth. So there you are. So I do think that there's, so I do think that there's an impact here, even though it's not books on stuff, right? And so I think there's value in going back and watching some of these things in this case. So there you are. And then finally, I just want to thank you so much, for taking some time out of your day and investing it in watching my video, because we all have so many things, right, that are happening in our lives, and we're pulled in so many different directions. So the fact that you spent this time with me, that's incredibly humbling, and I appreciate it much for that reason. So thanks again, and have an amazing day.